Hello my Illidari brothers, welcome back to Fel-Scarred Build TV. My Havoc guide for Mythic Plus is finally ready. Talents, gearing, gameplay, 7 different burst combos and the transition between them. Everything is here with timestamps for easy navigation. This bad boy took a lot of work to complete and all I'm asking for is your appreciation. Quickly smash that like button and let's get into the video. This is the talent build that you will be using in pretty much every single dungeon and it uses the Fel-Scarred hero tree. There are some minor variations that we will discuss later. A small disclaimer, there is also an Aldrachi Reaver build in the making. Based on Warcraft logs, some people have been finding some success with it. It is still in the experimentation phase, but it is quite possible that we could use this build in some hierarchies, especially in the ones with lower target count. If that ends up being the case, I will make an updated video about this Aldrachi Reaver build. For now, you just wanna stick with Fel-Scarred. This build is well catered for Mythic Plus. It has frequent bursts with I-Beam and an extremely powerful 2-minute burst with Metamorphosis. It can deal absurd amounts of uncapped AOE damage and very powerful single target. It has 2 core weaknesses. It is weak in cleave situations with 2 to 3 targets, and it does very low DPS outside the burst windows, so managing your bursts properly is vital. The true potential of the spec is still not super clear, because its bursts require multiple global cooldowns to set up, and in many keys, even in plus 12, the more bursty classes like Frost Decays destroy the packs before we can get our full damage out. This build naturally performs way better with coordinated groups that pull big around the 2-minute cooldowns. Where it does its insane burst. The core build is very stable and there are only a few choices you have to slightly customize it. You can run Wave of Debilitation instead of Pursuit of Angriness. This will primarily help your tank with auto-attack damage in huge pools. Inner Demon can be dropped for Glaive Tempest. This is the most important choice you have. Inner Demon makes your burst even stronger, while Glaive Tempest gives you some more consistent damage outside your burst. Inner Demon is easier to play since it gives you one less button to press in a spec flooded with global cooldowns. However, not managing your burst windows properly is way more punishing with Inner Demon, as you literally have nothing outside your burst. Both talents can be pretty competitive. If you want to troll and have fun, you can pick Fel Barrage and use it with your 2-minute burst for insane AOE. However, it does 0 single target, so I do not recommend it. Finally, you can drop Dance with Fate for Blind Fury. This will further increase your AOE damage and your burst at the cost of priority single target damage. I value priority damage a lot, so I always run Dance with Fate. For your stats, you still want to stack Critical Strike and Mastery, with some versatility being okay. Good thing is that these stats are also Bs for the Aldrachi Reaver Mythic Plus build, so if it turns out to be competitive, you can swap to it without worrying about your gear. That being said, do not forget that the best stats to push keys is always one, Avoidance. If you find pieces with Avoidance, just grab them and do not care about their secondary stats. You want to use 1 active trinket to pair with Metamorphosis every 2 minutes and 1 passive for stats. The best active is Cardine's Grace. If you haven't got this trinket yet, you can use Imperfect Ancestry Serum from the Delves as an alternative. I would not recommend using the infamous Treacherous Transmitter in Mythic Plus, although it seems higher. When you are doing big pulls with so much happening at the same time, the last thing you wanna do is to jump through hoops to proc your trinket. For your passive, either use Arakara Sackbrood or Empowering Crystal of Anubikaj. They are both very powerful. Some solid alternatives until you get one of these are Ovinax's Mercurial Egg, Shadow Binding Ritual Knife, or Void Reaper's Contract. There are some very rare items dropping from the raid that a lot of people talk about. The neck is completely useless for Havoc, it has terrible stats. The very rare Cloak from Rashana and the Fist Weapon from Nexus Princess Kaiveza are best in slot, if you can get them on Mythic difficulty. It is not worth sacrificing 13 item levels on either weapon or cloak for either of those effects. However, at the early stages of the season, they are convenient to get, as they will allow you to upgrade those slots from 619 to 626 for free. Finally, the ring from Queen Ansurek could potentially be best in slot even in heroic difficulty, although this still has to be tested. You wanna get your tier set head, chest, gloves and legs. The shoulders will be replaced with an off piece. They are a great slot to put an embellishment. For embellishments, you want 2 times Dawn Thread Lining. This can be crafted on wrist, cloak, shoulder, belt or boots. There are no crit mastery shoulders in Mythic Plus, so it is a good idea to put an embellishment on shoulder to get crit mastery there. I put my second embellishment on bracer. You wanna use 1 meta gem socket that boosts your crit damage and 4 different color sockets to maximize its effect. The rest of the sockets can be crit mastery sockets. For your enchants, you want Avoidance on Cloak, Crystalline Radiance on chest, Avoidance on Bracer, 2 times Authority of Radiant Power for weapons, Stormbound Armor Kit for legs, Defender's March for boots, and either Radiant Critical Strike or Radiant Mastery for your rings. For your consumables, you want to use Flask of Alchemical Chaos. For food, you either use a feast or salt-baked seafood. For weapons, you want double Iron Claw Whetstone, or if you are poor, just use the Aldrachi Mana Oil. For DPS potion, you want the Tempered Potion. Despite what they said, this still shares a cooldown with invisibility potions, so beware. For healing potion, you want the Aldrachi Healing Potion. For bandages, you want to use Wave Cloth bandages. They can be cast during Netherwalk, so make sure you take advantage of that. For the love of God, please get your jumper cables. They do not require engineering. Rest your friends and save your key. They can also be cast during Netherwalk. Finally, if you are rich, go buy Augment Runes to boost your damage. I still use the Infinite Augment Rune from Dragonflight, that works too. So you are prepared, you have all your gear and talents optimized. Now what? How does this spec actually play? There is a common misconception that Aldrachi Reaver is hard and Fel-Scarred is easy. This is definitely not the case in Mythic Plus. Fel-Scarred requires a lot of forward planning, movement and precise execution. Let's dive in. The spec adopts the theme of the burst heavy Havoc from last season and takes it to the next level. By adding Student of Suffering, Sigil of Flame now gives you a ton of mastery for 8 seconds, making it yet another buff that you want to line up with the rest of your buffs to execute huge burst combos. During those combos, you will also be triggering Demon Surge explosions when using the abilities empowered by your Demon Form. You get 2 of those every time you press I-Beam and 5 when you press Metamorphosis. All these aspects combined make your burst combos stronger than ever. You have to line up all the buffs optimally and hit your most powerful spells in very precise orders to maximize DPS within small time windows. Outside those windows, you play a small mini game while waiting for your big burst to come back off cooldown. The timeline of our spec looks similar to last season. You pop everything on pool with Metamorphosis, then you do 2 more I-Beam bursts at 40 seconds and 80 seconds. Finally, everything lines up again at 2 minutes. Between your 40-second bursts, you cast Vengeful Retreat after 20 seconds, but you don't use Sigil of Flame. Always save it for your bursts. The Hunt and Glaive Tempest, if you play it, should be used on cooldown or when there are multiple targets to hit, unless they are very close to a burst combo. In that case, you can delay them for a few seconds so they get buffed by the various burst combo modifiers. Taking a quick look at the damage breakdown in dungeons, you can easily see that our damage comes from various diverse sources. There is no singular ability or passive that carries Havoc DPS. Every small detail contributes to the final result, so everything matters. You should also keep in mind that our spec is constrained by multiple positional requirements that you have to respect, especially during your burst. Both I-Beam and Essence Break are frontal cones that can easily miss multiple targets if you do not aim them properly, or if you hit them in the middle of your acrobatics. Moreover, Immolation Aura, Rage Fire, and Demon Surge are explosions centered around your character. If you are outside of the pack, when Rage Fire expires or Demon Surge procs, you lose a lot of damage. Both of these things happen at the same time when you cast Abyssal Gaze, the improved I-Beam, which is both a frontal and procs a Demon Surge around you. It can be quite challenging to respect the positional requirements while dashing around to prepare and hit your burst combos, but it is extremely important. Havoc tier set bonus is extremely powerful. Not only it greatly increases Chaos Strike and Blade Dance damage, but it also gives each Chaos Strike a 25% chance to reset Blade Dance. The devs have done a really good job implementing this tier set as a controlled RNG. If you play around with it, you will notice that the more you fail to get a proc, the more likely it becomes that you will get one in your next Chaos Strike. Also, it is very rare to get a proc when Blade Dance is almost off cooldown with 2 or 3 seconds left. I do not know the exact maths behind it, but if you pay close attention to it for a while, you will start to get a feeling about when the proc is coming, and you can use this to your own advantage. If you are 2-3 seconds away from your burst combo and you have not gotten a proc for a while, you can stop casting Chaos Strikes for a bit so that the reset happens inside your demon form. This way, you will get an extra death sweep instead of just getting an extra blade dance. When you do not have any burst combos to hit, you enter the mini-game phase where you are trying to achieve 2 things. 1. Maximize your forced bonus procs and cast as many blade dances and Chaos Strikes as possible. 2. Keep up Burning Wound on 3 targets the whole time. We were used to passively maintain Burning Wound last season due to the infinite number of glaives that we were proccing. This is no longer the case. You have to take care of Burning Wound on your own by either applying it through tab targeting and auto-attacking, or by casting Throw Glaive every now and then. Tab targeting is the way to go if you want to do maximum overall DPS, since it will save you some global cooldowns on Throw Glaive, which does 0 damage. However, this will force you to cast Chaos Strikes on different targets. You can do that whenever all targets in a pack have equal priority. If there is a big mob that needs to be focused down, you should tunnel the big mob and focus all your Chaos Strikes on it, while throwing a glaive every now and then to maintain Burning Wound on other targets. A great time to do that is when you cast Vengeful Retreat between your bursts, as you are already outside of melee range. Finally, If you have Glaive Tempest or the Hunt, use them on cooldown and buff them with any extra Immolation Aura charges that will not be needed for your upcoming burst combo. During the minigame, your damage is very weak and it is a good idea to prioritize crowd control and dispelling over DPS. Use your Consume Magic, your Stuns, Sigil of Misery and Imprison to control mobs and let your teammates do uninterrupted damage. This is the best way to help your group. We made it to the final and most exciting part of the video, the massive burst combos of Fel-Scarred. I will show you 7 different combos for all situations, but all of them try to achieve the same 3 goals. Line up as many powerful buffs as possible at the same time, hit your hardest hitting abilities during those very powerful short time windows, respect the positional requirements so that you do not end up losing damage by missing your frontal cones or by being away from the mobs when an explosion happens around your character. Deciding which combo to use depends on the following factors. Are you bursting with Metamorphosis or just with I-Beam? Are you fighting a single target? Are you AOE? Do you have 1 or 2 charges of Immolation Aura, which translates to 5 or 10 seconds of Inertia? Are you running Glaive Tempest or Inner Demon? We will start with the most simple burst combos and gradually proceed to the more complex ones. Number 1. Single target I-Beam with single Inertia. This is the simplest combo that you will be using on bosses every 40 seconds if you do not have any extra Immolation Aura procs. You start with Immolation Aura, cast the Hunt if available, then Sigil of Flame, and finally Glaive Tempest if you are specced into it and it is off cooldown. Then you start your actual burst with I-Beam into Fel-Rush plus Essence Break, Vengeful Retreat through the boss while hitting Death Sweep into Annihilation. Be quick on your feet here. If you get a tier set proc, you're going to cast Death Sweep, otherwise cast 1 more Annihilation. When you cast your Fel-Rush, make sure to take half a global cooldown, turn and hit Essence Break properly. Otherwise, you can easily miss it due to its very buggy animation. Let's see it in action. Number 2. Single target I-Beam with double Inertia. The previous combo can be upgraded if you have 2 charges of Immolation Aura or if you get a Fire Inside proc. Since the first spell of the combo is Immolation Aura in both cases, you always know right off the bat whether you should go for the single Inertia or the double Inertia combo. You cast Immolation Aura, the Hunt, Fel-Rush, Immolation Aura, Fel-Rush again to get 10 seconds of Inertia, then Sigil of Flame, followed by Glaive Tempest if you are specced into it, and finally I-Beam into Vengeful Retreat plus Essence Break, followed by Death Sweep, Annihilation, and another Death Sweep or Annihilation depending on if you got a tier set proc. Let's check it out. Number 3. AOE I-Beam with single Inertia. This is the regular combo that you will be casting from pack to pack to do powerful AOE damage. It is slightly different than the previous combos, specifically due to the buggy nature of Essence Break that can easily miss multiple targets when cast during motion. If you want to learn more about this subject, there is a link to a relevant video in the description. In order to address this problem, you want to cast all your acrobatics first, get all the buffs, and then plant, aim, and shoot I-Beam and Essence Break to make sure you never miss any targets. You start with Immolation Aura, cast the Hunt if available, then Sigil of Flame, Glaive Tempest if you are specced into it, then cast Vengeful Retreat at the same time with your last global, Fel-Rush back in, take half a global to aim, and finally hit your burst. Since you do not cast any movement abilities after I-Beam, you have 1 extra global cooldown inside Demonic. This means that you have 1 extra opportunity to get a 4 set proc, at least with my levels of haste around 3000. Let's check out the simple version. And now let's check out the extended version. Number 4. AOE I-Beam with double Inertia. This is the upgraded version of the previous combo, and the only difference is that you cast Immolation Aura and Fel-Rush twice at the beginning to get 10 seconds of Inertia. You either stacked 2 charges of Immolation Aura in advance, or you get a Fire Inside proc. The first spell of both AOE combos is Immolation Aura, so you always know right off the bat whether you should go for the single Inertia or the double Inertia combo. Let's check out the simple version. And now check out the extended version. This was the last I-Beam Burst combo. Let's now move on to Metamorphosis combos. All Metamorphosis openers have more than 20 button sequences and you cannot possibly fit everything within your buff windows. That's why you have to spend some resources before you burst, then proceed to set up your burst and finally execute the main part. We will break them down in smaller parts to make them easier to understand. Number 5. Single target opener with Metamorphosis for bosses. This is the combo that you will use to open on bosses with all cooldowns to do maximum single target DPS. You start with Immolation Aura, and if you have at least one more Immolation Aura proc available, then cast Fel Rush. Otherwise, save it for later. Continue with Fellblade and Blade Dance, followed by the Hunt and Glaive Tempest if they are available. This completes your pre-burst. To set up your burst, you spam Immolation Aura until you have no more charges left, since all of them will be reset by Metamorphosis. Cast Sigil of Flame and pop your 2-minute DPS trinket and you are ready to do your big burst. Cast I-Beam to get into demon form, followed by Fel Rush, Death Sweep, Annihilation, and another Death Sweep if you get a proc from your Forset. You follow up with Vengeful Retreat, cancel its animation with Metamorphosis, and cast yet another Death Sweep. At this stage, you are all dry. All your buffs have worn off, so you need to reapply them and hit the rest of your big spells. You start with Consuming Fire into Fel Rush, Sigil of Doom, Annihilation if you are spec'd into Inner Demon, and finally Abyssal Gaze. This window will hit most of your Demon Surge explosions, so make sure you stay in melee range and do not miss any of them. For the closing of your burst, you cast one more Consuming Fire into Fel Rush, Essence Break, Death Sweep, Annihilation, and either a second Annihilation or Death Sweep depending on if you get a Forset proc. If you are spec'd in Glaive Tempest, use it again here at the end of your burst. Let's see this in action. Number 6. AOE Burst with Metamorphosis. This combo shows the true power of Fel-Scarred. This is what you do to AOE down 3 packs and do 10 million DPS. Similar to the previous one, it is a very long sequence that is split into pre-burst, setup, and burst. It is significantly harder due to several positional requirements. When you do single target on a boss with a huge hitbox, it is really hard to miss most of our spells. But when there is a pack with multiple targets, you need to position very carefully so that your spells hit all mobs of the pack. That's why I will show you the exact movement you need to perform step by step to execute this combo super clean. Having a macro to cast Sigil of Flame at your cursor will help you with this, so I will put one in the description. You start the pre-burst with Immolation Aura followed by the Hunt if it's available. If you have at least one Immolation Aura proc available, then cast Fel Rush through the pack to spread the dot of the Hunt and cast Fellblade to get back in. Otherwise, you have to aim the Hunt properly to spread the dot to 5 targets and save Fel Rush for later. Hit Blade Dance and Glaive Tempest if it is available. You now start your setup. Spend all your Immolation Aura procs, cast Throw Glaive to apply Burning Wound, then cast Sigil of Flame, pop your 2-minute DPS trinket, and cast I-Beam to start your big burst. Before casting I-Beam, you should already be at the one side of the pack, ready to dash through it. Target a mob at the opposite side of the pack and cast Fel Rush towards it. The moment you land, hit that mob with Annihilation while you already move towards the back center of the pack. This will make sure that your Demon Surge explosion will hit all mobs and that you are in prime position to hit your Essence Break combo. Cast Essence Break, then move 2 steps forward to be in the dead center of the pack. Complete the combo with Death Sweep, Vengeful Retreat, cancel its animation with Metamorphosis, and cast another Death Sweep. Similar to the previous combo, you are now dry. All your buffs have worn off, so you need to reapply them. You start with Consuming Fire into Fel Rush, Fellblade to get back in, Sigil of Doom, Annihilation if you are spec'd into Inner Demon or Glaive Tempest otherwise, and finally Abyssal Gaze. Make sure you stay dead center for the Demon Surges and move 1-2 steps outside to aim Abyssal Gaze. This is a very tight window with a lot of hard-hitting abilities. Clicking Sigil of Doom on the ground is likely to slow you down, so I suggest you use the cursor macro. Most of your burst is completed at this stage, so you follow up with what you have. Death Sweep, Consuming Fire, Fel Rush, and more Annihilations and Death Sweep. Let's check this in full uninterrupted version. Number 7. AOE opener with Metamorphosis at the beginning of the dungeon. This is a special combo that you only get to execute once, at the first pull of the dungeon, where most keys break. It has been common knowledge for a while that you can I-beam and Metamorphosis at the last seconds before putting the key in, so that you can have some extra seconds of demon form for your first pull. Well, with Fel-Scarred, it is way more than that. Since you cast Metamorphosis, all of your abilities are transformed into their empowered versions, and you have 5 Demon Surge explosions ready to go. After you spend them, you can cast your regular Metamorphosis to get another 5 for a total of 10 Demon Surges in the first pull. You will reach the first pull with 5 to 10 seconds of demon form, so you are on a timer. It is vital that you do not leave demon form or you lose the empowered spells and all the demon surges. So there is no time for pre-burst or setup. You press your 2-minute trinket, your DPS potion, and immediately start bursting. Keep in mind, if at any point you are about to leave demon form, ignore everything else and cast Abyssal Gaze so that you get an extra 6 seconds of demon form and then continue with the sequences as best as you can. Disclaimer: if you have not reached the first pack or your tank has not managed gathering everything yet and your demon form is about to expire, do not cast Abyssal Gaze in the middle of nowhere to extend it, and do not start bursting only to get aggro and die. The extra damage is tempting, but if you cannot make use of it, then so be it. Do not break your key for no reason. All things considered, if you have enough time, you wanna follow this sequence. You wanna cast Consume Fire, Fel Rush, Fellblade back in, and Sigil of Doom to get all buffs, then cast Death Strip and Abyssal Gaze to deal big damage with 2 more explosions. You follow up with another Consuming Fire Fel Rush combo, Annihilation to spend your last Demon Surge, and execute Essence Break with double Death Strip. This part requires careful movement and positioning, exactly as shown in the previous combo. Once more, you are now dry. All your buffs have worn off, so you need to reapply them. You start with Consuming Fire into Fel Rush, Fellblade to get back in, Sigil of Doom, Annihilation if you are spec'd into Inner Demon, or Glaive Tempest otherwise. And finally, Abyssal Gaze. Remember, make sure you stay dead center for the Demon Surges and move 1-2 steps outside to aim Abyssal Gaze. The last tip I have for you is to get a bit familiar with Aldrachi Reaver in case it becomes the go-to spec for Mythic Plus later in the season. If you wanna know 7 secret interactions of Aldrachi Reaver, click the video on screen or the link in the description. And as always, see you in the next one!